Hi everyone, Al the Psych here. Have a video today. It's about communication. I'm going to really be following a book called Words Can Change Your Brain. It's by Andrew Newberg and Mark Waldman from 2012. But I'm also going to be throwing my own information about communication in this video as well. So, as always, if you want to get the pure form of what they said, you're going to need to read their book. Okay. So, and as always, this is for informational purposes only. And they talk about compassionate communication. I'm just going to be hitting on points. I'm not going to really go into detail about that. So again, you would have to really read the book. But they talk about our working memory and when we're conversing with people. And our working memory holds about 4 chunks, or we can kind of handle about 30 seconds at a time. So they recommend, that the speaker, maybe if you're talking to whoever, your partner, you talk for about 30 seconds and then you see if the listener has processed that information. I know that sometimes I'll be talking with somebody and they go on and on and on, and then I'm just trying to grab a little tidbit or trying to remember a little tidbit about this massive information that's been presented to me. Now, so they recommend speaking with brevity, trying to get the point across, and that actually helps reduce the expression of negative emotions, is what they say. So this would help reduce conflict as well. Now, I know there's times where, I can maybe jump right into, a conflict in less than 30 seconds. But I think what they're suggesting is go ahead and if you've got your frontal lobe working first, and then you're cutting it off after 30 seconds, you're giving your emotional brain, your limbic system a little less time to get involved. Another thing they recommend, especially if this is going to be some sort of communication that might be a little emotionally charged, just go ahead and do some type of relaxation before the communication. So you might want to take 3 long, deep breaths, kind of yawn, and then go ahead and get involved in the conversation. In fact, I've seen a lot of golfers doing the yawning before they're going to tee off. So it's a strategy that can be used in a lot of settings, apparently. Now, negative words. If we're communicating with negative words, just the word no, for instance, no. Okay, that activates your amygdala, that part of your brain in the limbic system that releases stress hormones into your system. So just that word no can do that. All right. So again, that's part of the power of words. And when we talk about negative thinking, negative thinking is self-perpetuating. So the more you're exposed to it, whether it be your own thinking, negative thinking, or other people's negative thinking, the more your brain's going to generate these additional negative feelings and thoughts. And the more you think negatively, then the more difficult it is to stop. And I remember a therapist of mine from decades ago used to have this saying, which was, beware the seriousness of others, it's contagious. Well, that goes with negative thinking and negative statements. Kind of interesting on a side note, if I remember correctly, we were talking, I mentioned the word no, and I think John Lennon, when he got together with Yoko Ono, he was at one of her art shows or something, and he had to climb a ladder, and there was a magnifying glass, and he had to look at what was written up there, and it just said yes. And I think he was saying that wow, that just kind of was so uplifting for him. So kind of interesting things about words in general. Now, steps to interrupt negative thoughts and feelings. Okay, the author suggests first, ask yourself if the situation really is a threat to your personal survival, and almost always it's no. Okay, there's some rare exceptions, obviously. Then number 2, reframe the negative thoughts into a positive one. So if you're worried about your finances, think about how you're going to be able to maybe generate more income, or how you're going to be able to handle the situation, rather than just ruminating about it. You're going to come up with some positive strategies. And again, this is going to work for whatever. If it's a relationship issue, if you're worried about being rejected, well, you focus on your positive qualities. And if you legitimately have some things that you have to work on, great. This is an opportunity to work on those issues. Then number 3, they say, do this as fast as you notice that you're in a negative mindset, because the quicker you do it, the easier it is to get out of it. It's kind of like, if you hear a funny sound from your car, it's best to have it checked out early rather than waiting and let potential serious damage happen. Now, having said all that, about the negative thinking and getting out of that mindset, that sort of thing. They also mentioned that positive thinking can be taken too far if you're prone to exaggeration, and then people might question your honesty, and I kind of think of this as like pitching a product, like if it sounds too good to be true type of thing. Now, people can become immune to the overuse of strongly positive or negative words. So like their awareness of using those words just kind of decreases. So if you got a chronic complainer that you have to deal with, it might just be that they do it so frequently that it's just kind of like their default, and they don't even realize that they're in this default mode. You realize it, but they may not. Now, Herbert Benson's team, Herbert Benson of the Relaxation Response fame, that book, his team at Massachusetts General Hospital discovered that while in a relaxed state, focusing on positive and personally meaningful words can ignite stress-reducing genes. So, whatever that personally meaningful word is for you, or just a word in general, like, when John Lennon saw yes, just the word yes has a whole different impact on you as opposed to the word no. Okay. And even when I say it, you can just see how my intonation changes. Yes, no, in my body language, my intonation, everything. Let me double check my notes here. Okay, yeah, so in a relationship, again, I've just kind of picked out some of the gems from the book. In a relationship, we need to communicate our feelings of love and appreciation as often as possible. Now, this is especially important since we're wired to see negative things. That's the negativity bias. I've talked a lot about that in previous videos. We're just wired that way as human beings. That's an evolutionary sort of protection that's built in. So it's easy for us to overlook like kind things that are done for us. Okay, and it's real easy to find little things that annoy us. So one of the things that's really useful, at least in terms of a relationship, is really trying to focus on, okay, I'm going to go searching for all the little positive things that are done for me. And say I'm talking about my partner. I'm going to go searching for what that partner does for me, and I'm going to mention it. Okay, because typically it's just like I get into a ho-hum, that's just expected sort of scenario, as opposed to, I'm gonna mention this. It's amazing if you do that enough times, frequently enough, and continually, how that can amp up your relationship. Real important, I thought. Now, they mention about the thalamus. This is in the center of the brain. It's kind of a walnut-shaped sort of structure. And this relays sensory information about the outside world to, other parts of the brain. And when we imagine thoughts, it processes the thoughts just as it would any sense, whether it's visual, olfactory, tactile, auditory, whatever. So your brain is imagining these things. It's actually seeing this as reality. Okay, so that's why it's real important, like in terms of visualizing techniques. You visualize yourself, working on giving a speech. If you have a fear of speech giving, so you practice giving yourself or doing that speech over and over again and doing it well. So your brain actually processes it like, yeah, this is a real thing. I've done it 10 times and I gave that speech 10 times and it went real well. Your brain processes it like it did it, like you actually did that. Athletes use visualization. Why? Because it processes it like they actually did whatever they visualized. So it's real important to, if you're an athlete, you process going through whatever activity it is and doing it well. Or you visualize having to face an adversity and getting over that adversity. Real important, I think. Now, just in terms of communication in general, and when I was working as a school psychologist, I was one of the teams that worked with crisis prevention, working with kids that maybe were on the verge of getting out of control. And one of the things we talked about and worked with teachers on is, their tone, your tone is so important, how you present yourself. It's not just the words. I mean, you could be saying something that if you just read it, you would think it would be a pleasant sort of statement, but how your tone came out could be, kind of threatening. And, I look at this, I put down in my notes, I put down the word lovely. You think of the word lovely, it sounds lovely, doesn't it? But then I also think of when I saw the movie Frenzy. For you that don't know, this was an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and one of the guys in the movie said the word lovely, the way he said it, and it was creepy and scary, and of course, it's associated with a pretty ugly, brutal scene. So you can see how two words can have two entirely different meanings and feelings associated with them. So nonverbal communication too is, very important. I could say something like, I want you to relax, but if I have my hands on my hips and I'm towering over you, if you're a child or something like that, and I just say, I want you to relax now, I'm not actually sending out this aura of being relaxed. I'm kind of like giving you the impression that maybe I'm a little stern or upset or something. My hands on my hips and a stern tone in my voice. So you want some congruency between what you say and also what your body is presenting. Okay. Finally, the last thing I'm going to present from the book, they talk about developing positivity in kids and people in general, as far as I'm concerned. But the authors mentioned, have the kids write what they did well each night. Okay, and and you at some point, you can kind of slack it off a little bit, and have a maintenance level. But I mean, that's good advice, not just for kids, but for adults. And then have the kids write down what they're grateful for. Again, not just for kids. They said for kids, but not just for kids, for adults as well. There's so much to communication that I'm putting just a little bit of information and I'm kind of throwing it into one little nutshell. So at some point in time, what I'll probably do is I'll just pick up important points that I haven't addressed now and include them in other future videos. So anyway, I'm hoping that was informative, a lot of information there, and see you next time.